Good morning, and welcome to the Saturday morning SOM lecture theory series. I'm honored to be here today, and as we close out the month of August and head into September, I mean it's amazing when we think about how time is moving on. Um, but it's great to be here as always. I look forward to having some engaging conversations and just really uh, deepening our understanding of this teaching in a practical way, not just in a theoretical way, but in a practical way, so that we can begin to be the science of mind. So I want to say good morning to Shay. Good morning. Good morning. Glad you're here. Um, and for those that are coming in, if you have a friend, tell a friend to come on in and join us in this lively conversation today. Well, first and foremost, as you know, we do this series every year, starting in January, and we go through chapter by chapter in the Science of Mind's textbook. And then once we complete that, we step into the Science of Mind archives, which is a fabulous thing that's available to us because it has volumes of our old magazines, Creative Thought and Science of Mind magazine that we pull from. And so this time of the year, we begin to pull from that archive and look at certain magazines and look at articles and begin to look at how this teaching gets played out in everyday life. And so today we are going to go into the archives. But before we do that, let me just anchor us with the prayer that brings us in center with what we are going to experience today. So if it feels comfortable for everyone, close your eyes or take a deep breath and just get centered, because we know right here, right now, that the presence, the power that is the super intelligence of the universe is here, surrounding us, enlivening us, and activating our minds so that we are attuned to the infinite. We call forth that observation skill, that intuitive skill, that openness skill that allows us to hear these words and this conversation that we have as a beacon for light and hope. And so we make ourselves available to this teaching. We make ourselves available to this moment, and we do it with ease and grace. And so it is, amen. And so it is, amen. And so today we are going to look at the Science of Mind the Science of Mind magazine from September 2004. September 2004. Now, if you haven't uh, found this in your own personal archives, join the archives, uh, and give yourself a treat to be able to see all of the wisdom that is available to us through the archives with such great teachers as we have Grace in the cover here, um, with Dr. Wayne Dyer. And we won't go into his interview because his was the interview, and I really want you to go and get this. Join the archives, get this, and read this audio because it's an interview, so it's more of a dialogue, and I think it has a better effect. But this whole idea that he brings forth of just say yes to what you want is fabulous. It's fabulous because we know from our teaching that as you think, so shall you become. And as you continue to think, so shall you remain. And so we are looking here at this issue. And there's a couple of things that's about faith and there's some stuff about life's 7 lessons. And but what we are going to focus on today, and here's the table of contents of this magazine. issue. So we have a lot of stuff there. So great contributions from several of our luminaries back in the day. It's funny to say back in the day, right? 2004. That's all. That's 20 years ago. 20 years ago. This teaching, and of course, we know it goes way back, but this teaching is everlasting. And so let's just dig in. And so the first thing that I pulled out that I think, given where we are in time and what we are looking to accomplish with this teaching in our lives and the lives of others, is how do we begin to lean into the faith? To lean into the faith. And so this first this first thing we're going to look at here is this article that says faith, finding it, growing it, and living it. Finding it, growing it, and living it. So I would like to ask everyone that's on, if you don't mind, what is faith to you? What do you perceive to be faith? If you feel comfortable. And because we know from the biblical standpoint, there's that verse that, it's the evidence of things unseen, right? Faith is having a conviction in something that is unseen, that you can't quite put your hand on, but you know it exists because you've experienced it, or you've witnessed someone else experience it, even though you have not may have been in that same vibration to really experience it, although it's all available in our lives. And so when we begin to think about this idea of faith and finding it, the first thing that I want to bring to our attention is growing up in faith, as the author says, that when we observe young children exploring their environment, you can surmise that there is a natural faith involved in such exploration. Their naivete and curiosity supports a truth that involves hope and expectation. And I want to stop right there. Hope and expectation. Because you see, these are two important ingredients in anything. Hope is this idea of expecting something. And expectation is the full manifestation of it, of that idea. And so then it says trust, hope, and expectation are essential byproducts of faith. We can then conclude from this simple experiment that faith is natural and innate in all humans, and that it is an integral part of growing up. Now, just stop right there and think about growing up. You had faith. I'm going to speak for myself. When we all climbed up on the roof and jumped off, and we know we weren't supposed to be up there and definitely not jumping off, we had a faith and a curiosity that allowed us to do it with very little fear. Now, not to say we didn't have any fear, but that inquisitiveness, that curiosity, that sense of knowing that there was something guiding you, even though it was scary, you were able to take that leap. That is a great indication that faith has been and always will be with us. Because I'm sure there were other situations, and I know it's true for myself, that when other things were done, I didn't do it. My faith was not confident enough for me to, I might jump off the carport, but I won't jump out the tree because I might hit a limb, just as an example. And so we look at this and we begin to really question and ask the question, what is faith? Now, Shay says here that trusting the universe, believing in a benevolent creator in a short, succinct kind of way, right? Now, a question that often comes up that I think is a valid question, and I'm going to pose it. What is the difference between belief and faith? Or do you think there is a difference between belief and faith? Just ponder that. Just ponder the idea. What is, excuse me, what is the difference between belief and faith? Or is there a difference? Because I believe that there is a difference. There's a difference between believing in something and having faith in something. Because I can believe that, the moon is made of cheese. Quite different from having a faith that I know it is not made of cheese, right? So a belief is something that changes, but a faith is something that's steady, that holds true, that stands the test of time, as they say. And so when we look at faith at work, right? Faith deepens with practice, like any other science. The science of mind requires evidence, and evidence must be provided through practice. The only prayer not answered is a prayer not spoken. The treatment that fails to be demonstrated are those that lack spiritual conviction or faith. Spiritual conviction or faith. So we call forth things as though they are. That's how we do this. We call forth things as though they are, so that we have a faith. We understand that when certain principles and laws are put in place, things happen. When you get outside this morning and get in your car, if you have a car, you put the key in the ignition and you turn it with complete faith and conviction that it's going to start. And as long as the principles hold for the combustion engine, it will start. And there's a faith there. And if it's not, as it says here, we can look at these laws that cause the engine to combust and start. Something is out of alignment. Something is out of alignment. And it's the same with us as we go through life. If we are not in alignment with the principles of the universe that are articulated very clearly in the science of mind, which is foundationally built on this idea, as our founder Ernest Holmes said, religious science. Like we take the spiritual perspective and add it to the science so that we begin to experiment, if you will. We begin to observe. We begin to play with, as it says with the children, to get a full understanding of what we're doing and what we're dealing with, so that when I can use these laws of correspondence, I know at this level something works. And as long as those principles hold, if I go to another level, they should work. Faith kicks in. And as we begin to practice this and observe this and engage in this teaching, we begin to find what faith is. We begin to find it. And as we practice it, it begins to grow. It begins to grow. Now, I know for me, when I first started riding a bike, I saw all the other kids ride it, looked easy, but I didn't have a whole lot of faith that I could do it because I was a small kid. Bike was big. Truth be told, I didn't even know how to put on brakes. For me to stop, I would jump off the bike and run alongside it. Not a smart idea. Um, but but I did have faith that I could do it because I saw someone else did it. I had made some attempts. I fell off a couple times, but I had a faith that if I practice, that if I leaned into the laws of balance, that I could do it. And eventually I did. That was faith in action, faith in work. And so once we have this idea of faith and we can find it within ourselves and we can do these practices and do these observance to make it grow, then we begin to reach for a higher faith. We reach for a higher faith. And here we say, if we embody the idea that there is a higher wisdom that works within us and through us, then we can pursue faith from any perspective. Because once we know this thing works, we can look at it from any perspective. And so in that case, we begin to utilize it, right? The idea gently leads to the acceptance that the benevolent God or power or presence, however we want to call it, is everywhere, always there. It means that whether we can feel it, perceive it, or understand it, God's goodness is in us and in all of life's situations, good, bad, or indifferent, always present. God's goodness is in us and is all situations. This belief allows us to live life from our core center of spiritual truth. This is the faith of the mystics and the saints. Now, we hear a lot about mystics in our teaching. And, one of the interesting things about mystics is that regardless of the circumstance, they walk through life as all is well. They don't allow circumstances, as our founder said, we don't allow circumstances to overshadow a knowingness that always present. And that's how mystics live. They and saints live. They live from this place, this center in their faith that says, regardless of circumstances, I know all is well. I know all is well. And so we look at that from that mystical faith, and it says mystical faith is that level of faith that allows us to see all of our lives in a perfect order and design. Regardless of circumstances, we're able to see that we are here, we're going through life, and as a lot of our teachers have said, uh, Joseph Campbell being one of them, Carl Jung, our founder in his home, that we are on this hero's journey. We're on this hero's journey. And everything on the journey provides us with opportunities to learn. Not only a situation that we may find ourselves in, but to learn who we are, to learn ourselves. And when we can do that, now we step into faith. And we can move as if this world we're living in is made for us. It's created for us. And as we begin to live life with that kind of faith, we begin to see that we are here on a divine mission to actualize ourselves, to become who we are, and to move forward with grace, knowing that all is well, knowing that all is well. And so that's where we're starting today, this idea of faith, because as we continue to move through this year, and we have all kinds of things going on around us, we must cultivate a faith. We must cultivate a faith that allows us to move with confidence. And as it said, with conviction that we are doing the right thing, that we're moving in the right direction, and that all is well. Now, the next question, if you will, is how do we do that? How do we first understand this thing called faith and begin to cultivate it and grow it and work with it and under that? Now, once we've done that, we got some inkling of it, and it's a evolving thing. So your faith grows. How do you begin to embody that? How do you begin to embody that? Well, uh, Dr. Ernest Holmes had an article in this that we reprinted that says this: be yourself. Be yourself, not somebody else. Be yourself. I think it was uh, I forget who it was that made the statement that said you might as well be yourself because everyone else is already taken. Everyone else is already taken. And so once we have this idea of what faith is and how to activate it and how to lean into it, that should give us the courage to just be who we are, because we know we are each individual expressions of the Most High God, and that we are here with certain skills and insights and perspectives on the world that no one else has. That's why we can look at these different incidents in our life, good, bad, or indifferent, because they give us a certain perspective on the world or perspective on a problem that allows us to live joyously. Now, that may sound, a little off to some people, because how do I live joyously through my pain or through my troubles? And I'm here to tell you it can be done. It is done. And we have to put ourselves in the right frame of reference with faith and practice to begin to step into this. Now, so let's step into it. Dr. Holmes says in this article that people are the most interesting things in the world. While it is true we do not always get along with them as well as we might, it is also certain that we could not get along without them. We need each other more than we realize. We need each other more than we realize, Dr. Holmes said. Now, what does that mean? Because he makes this point about even those people we don't get along with, we need them just as much as we need the people we get along with. And what does that have to do with being yourself? Anybody? Because you see, this idea of understanding from faith that you are a unique individual expression of the divine allows us, when we understand that and step into it with faith, because I disagree with someone does not mean I don't like them, or I'm out to get them or any of that. This teaching says that we are what we think. And by dialogue and by observing things that are different from us, we not only learn and grow, we begin to find the common ground with others. When we look at today, as it says in the Bible, there's wars and rumors of wars. But if we can step into this idea of being ourselves, knowing that when we come to the table, we bring a perspective that is uniquely us. And if we present that with faith and confidence, we can make a difference. We can make a difference. And so, we want to move from there. Once we understand that, Dr. Holmes says we are told that the two things people are most interested in is love and personality. This is not strange because everyone wants to love and be loved. Everyone wants to feel needed. Every individual wishes to find that he plays an important role in life. Thus, whatever our personality may be, or whatever it is to become, it is wrapped up in the one idea that there is a spirit in man and God Himself is incarnate in every soul. And now this is written back in a time when it wasn't gender neutral, so we understand that. But this idea that we are individuals who want to be loved, who want to love, and want to be valued, and want to be valued. But if I'm, which speaks to being myself, right? Because if I'm trying to act, act like in this day and age, we see a lot of people emulating and simulating other people who they admire, think they're going to get something, or whatever it might be. But I'm willing to bet you that that does not bring true success nor happiness. No way, no how. Because when I do that, I can try and emulate, uh, you know, Michael Jordan all I want, but I'm 5'6" barely. I can dribble a little bit and I can shoot a little bit, but there's no way in the world I'm gonna be Mike. Now I can be like Mike, as the saying goes. I can take those ideas that he put forth of practice and dedication and faith and relationships and liking and loving others to come together as a team. But to do that, I got to be myself. I have to be myself, right? And a great example from the memoirs of Michael Jordan. Some of you, if you follow Mike and know his story, his relationship with Dennis Rodman, who was one of the bad boys of basketball. And there was this story where they were in the playoffs, I believe it was, and uh, or getting ready to get to the playoffs, and Dennis Rodman needed to, you know, do what Dennis does, and he wanted to go to Vegas, and he was going back and forth, and Mike told him, let him go to Vegas, you know, and so the coach let him go. Dennis, just being himself, went. He was supposed to stay a day or something, and he stayed like 2 3 days, and partied like Dennis said in 1999. And they, Mike was not worried. Others were worried, but Mike was not worried because he understood Dennis was being himself, that Dennis was faithful. He understood the relationship of love and being loved. They had to go get him. Okay. But when they got him, he came back that night and played the game and had one of the best games that he had. Now, what does that say? We have to allow people to be themselves. But that also means that we have to begin to understand and observe people, right? Because that says there is a divine person back of our personality, no matter how it shows up, right? There's a divine person back of that, a unique manifestation of the living spirit. It is never alike in any two people. This is proven by the fact that no two persons' thumbprints are alike. No two blades of grass are alike. No two anythings are identical. And yet, everything is rooted in one life, one presence, and one power. At the center of our being, there is a divine person, a unique incarnation of God. This is the source of all real inspiration. Here and here alone, at the center of our being. is the real creative power. The question is whether we are living from this center or whether we are thinking of ourselves as detached, separated, divided, alone, and inadequate. Now, does that fit anybody? Do you find yourself answering to that statement? Well, quite frankly, I think we all do at times. But when we go back to this thing of the idea of faith and growing faith and practicing faith, we begin to become more confident in who we are. And then we know at that point, once we step fully, as it says, into the persona of that divine person that is within us, now we're ready for anything. As 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 the saying goes, I'd rather be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So that means I got to know myself. I got to be myself. I got to be ready to step up at the moment's notice. At the moment's notice. And so I can only do that by knowing myself, by being myself, right? And I can only be myself if I know myself. I can only be myself if I know myself, which requires us to step into another way of living, another way of acting, another way of uh, living out these principles every day. Every day. So I'm going to stop right there, see if anyone has any questions, any comments before we move on to the last uh, topic we're going to look at from this magazine from 2004, Science of Mind. Um, great issue. I would encourage everybody to, if you have it in your own personal archives, go back through your magazines, find it. If not, join the archives, and and you'll have access to this and many more. So, okay, seeing that everyone is tracking, okay. Um, the last thing that I want to bring forth from this issue, I think, is is paramount in where we are in this day, because we're being encouraged rather, to do this. We are being encouraged to awaken. And now this perspective is from the Buddhist and inner science of mind and the joy of awakening. The joy of awakening. Now, just think about this morning when you woke up. Were you joyful when you woke up? You know, or were you still worried about yesterday's problems, or or worrying about some problems that may not even be real, but that you created in your mind? We all do it. I did it this morning, to be honest. I was thinking about this moment now, and did I have the thing right and this right? And but then I awaken to a greater understanding. That understanding being, I have faith in a higher understanding, in an infinite power. I have faith in these teachings. I have faith in myself. And for sure, I understand the power and presence of being myself. So I had done the work. I got everything. Then I stepped. Boom. And so now I can look back at that moment and say, oh, that is a moment of the cycle of awakening. Because we live in a life, in a world that is evolutionary cyclic. It moves in cycles. Right now, the cycle of fall for some of us is upon us, right? Temperatures are getting a little cooler. But it's been doing that for ages. Around this time, the end of August and middle of September, end of September, the temperature changes. The plants recede, the leaves fall off. Our mindset begins to change from what it was in the summer when it was hot and gleeful into the fall when it's about harvesting and going within and beginning to prepare. And so when we look at this idea of awakening and looking at it from the Buddhist perspective, right? So we're looking here at the perspective of Buddhism and comparing it, if you will, to the science of mind. The Bodhisattva path says this: when one does not know the mystery of the mind, which is the most important thing in the world to understand, he is hopelessly lost and will never attain happiness at the end of suffering. Therefore, I advise you to take hold of and guard your own mind. Take care of and guard your own mind. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like for some of us who are gardeners, like, and I got a few plants out, and uh, that means to guard my mind is just like guarding my garden. I have to weed it. I have to prepare for the pests that may come and try to disrupt it or eat it or kill it. I have to sometimes just bask in the sun, just like the plants, and that sun being basked in some meditation or some observation to be alivened, to be awakened. That's what that means. We have to guard our mind. What are we reading? What are we watching? What are we constantly having conversations about? Are they creating a fertile ground for you to awaken, for you to grow in faith, for you to really begin to understand who you are and be yourself? Or are they detrimental? Are they tearing you down? Are they critical? And that criticality could be against someone else. It doesn't, when we're judging someone else, that energy is also affecting us, right? When we are making fun of someone else, that's affecting me and you if you're doing it. So we have to guard our mind. We have to guard our mind. And then we get to that point after we've done that, we get to that point where we understand that awakening is about the wisdom of enlightenment. Now, stop right there. The wisdom of enlightenment. Now, that could mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but for me, the wisdom of enlightenment means that it's like being in a dark room and I cut the light on. Now I'm enlightened. I can see things, and there's a wisdom there, and there's an awakeness that I don't walk into the night table, right? Or I don't stump my toe on the sofa. Once I become enlightened and I awaken to a situation, that's what happens. That's what happens. And this means seeing things as they are, not as we would like them to be. Very key. Seeing things as they are, not as we would like them to be. Because I can walk into the room in dark and act like the table is not there or the sofa is not there, and I could, break my neck. But when I know things and see things as they are from this awakened moment, from this point of wisdom, and we know wisdom is this idea of lived experience, then we can begin to operate from a new perspective. We can live life from a new perspective. And if we've done our work at the faith level, and we've done our work at the becoming who we are level, this is a byproduct, I believe. We just wake right up, boom, and we understand because we can look back at life's experiences. When I minded my garden of mind, and when I did the practice, what was the results? What was the results when I didn't do those things? The wisdom comes in, and because of the reciprocal nature of the universe, it begins to increase our faith. I have a faith that if I do, some push-ups every morning, I may start with just one. But if I do it every morning, pretty soon I'll do two. Pretty soon I'll do five. And before you know it, I'll have a strength and a presence that represents the practice that I did, no matter where I started. Even if I started from the idea I am not doing any push-ups, but I got the very good intention of doing it. So I get up and I even in my mind I go through it, but I didn't do a push-up yet. I'm guarding my mind. I'm guarding my persona. I'm making myself available for that divine spirit within to blossom. Now, when we're able to do that and we awaken to this idea that we see things as they are, not as we would like them to be. Now, some might take fault with that, right? Because as we think, yeah, this is not denying that we can change it with thought, but I got to know what it is I'm trying to change, right? I have to know that if I am not in the right environment, I have to know that. I can't be in a bad environment and act like it's good. There's this idea now of toxic positivity where we just say everything's good, everything's positive. Well, in a holistic way, it is. But if I'm standing in a burning house and I'm not aware of what's going on and looking at it for what it is, saying it's all good, I'm positive, then, there's some consequences to that. So we have to understand that wisdom or enlightenment and awakening means seeing things as they are, not as we want them to be. But then we can move to this next statement says, we are what we think. We are what we think. I'm going to say that again. We are what we think. All that we are arises within our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you as your shadow unshakable. That's from the original sayings of Buddha. Thoughts, our presence of mind, the way we present ourselves. We have to create that environment. We have to create those words, and it allows us to grow in faith and to be who we are. To grow in faith and to be who we are. And I think that this whole idea is encapsulated by what the Dalai Lama said. He says, if we can reorient our thinking and emotions and reorder our behavior, not only can we learn to cope with suffering more easily, but we can prevent a great deal of it from starting in the first place. That's powerful. That's the science of mind in action right there. Not ignoring things as they are and not being engaged, but if we change our mind and change our behavior, then we begin to see it. We talked in the beginning about that faith in work, faith in action. That's what we're looking to do here as we look at this issue from 2004, the science of mind. So we're at time, and I trust that there was one nugget, two nuggets that gave you, and if you're watching this later, will give you a spark to activate this teaching in your life, to activate your faith, to activate the personality and person that you are, so that we all awaken to that God presence that is in each and every one of us. That is in each and every one of us. And so I want to close with this. I want to close with this. Savor each moment. Even though January appears on the first leaf of the calendar. September has always seemed like the beginning of the year. Traditionally, school begins around this time. So, as children, we often measured our year with the end of summer and the commencement of class in the fall. Ironically, in the cycle of nature, this time represents the beginning of the end since the fall harvest precedes the dominant period of winter. All of life is a cycle, beginning and ending. However, are merely arbitrary signposts which, which we assign to events. The one life we all live is constantly regenerating itself in a never ending cycle of opportunities for greater self expression. There is never any real ending to anything, no ultimate finality, just a transition to another stage of life, another stage of growth. This should comfort us as we go through those painful episodes of life in which a loved one makes a transition, a relationship ends, or a job or housing agreement is terminated. The sting of separation is august when we realize that our loved one has only gone to another dimension. New relationships can begin, and exciting possibilities for employment and housing exist. The one undeniable eternal truth is that life goes on. It is flowing. The possibilities are endless, and expectancy lights the way. Today, I celebrate life. Life in all its manifestations, life in all its beauty and uncertainty, life in all its joy and love. Thank you, God, for every aspect of my life. So I like to leave everyone with that thought because in this way, this is the way of the mystic. We savor every moment. We do it with faith. We do it with an understanding of who we are, which allows us to awaken to this idea where we savor every moment, regardless of what it looks like. And so I want to thank you for being with us and thank you, Shafe, as well. And please, everyone, subscribe to this network, New Thought Media Network. There's something for everybody. There's radio, there's talk, there's excuse me, there's something for everyone. And so we want to thank you for being here, and we hope to see you again soon. So I leave you with peace, blessings, and so it is. Amen.